Welcome to another video about living the Christian life. Today's episode is about human connections and about how central they are for our well-being. We'll also look at some research and discuss problems and solutions. I'm amazed how similar people are on the inside, in our feelings and our needs, although we can be quite different in how we look or think or talk. We might need more or less connections, but none of us get through life without people being involved. Connections and friendships give purpose and meaning to life, and it's also really affecting our health. We all have the ability to create connections. We do need to connect to people and support each other, not only by pressing the like button on social media, but simple things like eating together and sharing a meal is fantastic. It has an impact on kids and grown-ups alike. There's lots of studies on that. Maybe we should just stop being busy for a second and turn our attention to someone else. That could have a profound effect. People pay it forward. And we all need emotional care and empathy and compassion, and we can all show it to others as well. Nowadays, many humans, if not most of us, spend a lot of time online. Especially during COVID, we found out that connections via the web is doable, and actually was super to see each other in that way. I know that many did not feel the same closeness as during face-to-face meetings, but some preferred it, as you could both join when you were sick or out of town or just had very limited social energy. Most of us enjoy meeting in person, but for some it's challenging or exhausting when there are many people gathered together. Overall, using Zoom, etc. during COVID was a definite step up from not seeing almost anyone. When we talk to each other and ask about love, for instance, people tell you great stories, but also stories about heartbreak. And you talk to someone about belonging, you will also hear stories about being excluded, which feels terrible. We have all tried that. Talk about connection, they also tell you stories about disconnection. And sometimes we get hurt, or we even hurt others. Sometimes connections break, and there's like a canyon between us and others. Or we get scars that we carry around with us. We all need to feel that we belong, that we are okay, we are good enough, that we matter to others. Affirmation feeds our soul. We hate to feel alone in the middle of a crowd. At least I do. To feel invisible or unimportant or different or wrong. But you do matter. You are a unique human being with talents and personality and feelings like everyone else. And you are not alone. Loneliness is one of the major contributors to depression, suicide, etc. Loneliness has a higher detriment to our health than smoking or high blood pressure. 1 in 4 people do not feel like they have anyone to talk to about life issues. Statistics look increasingly bad, especially for young people, but heartfelt connections lowers our rate of many ills, including anxiety. We thrive on connections. We all need to be known, cared about, listened to, and to be understood. Connections is one of our greatest human needs. Our brains are hardwired for connections, and the reward center lights up when we reach out to other people and interact. Being honest with others strengthens our immune system, and we recover faster from illnesses. Isn't that amazing? 3 things that we could do for ourselves. Number 1, give space to all our feelings and figure out what is happening. Take a break and breathe. Because at the core, we are all enough. We need to accept ourselves and others with warts and all, good and bad. Number 2, tell the truth. Share your life. Don't just say, I'm fine. Number 3, we need to realize we're not alone. We need each other, and connections lead to love and comfort instead of isolation and pain. We all have friendships or relationships at work or family or even with God, and there are things that can destroy connections, and one thing is shame. And shame is actually fear of disconnection. We think that if I just told them about what I thought or did, they wouldn't want to be my friend anymore. Maybe you're thinking I'm not good enough or tall enough or smart enough or rich enough or whatever. We all know these feelings when we compare ourselves to each other and feel small or unimportant or different or unwanted. And one thing we need to do is just to talk to someone about these things so that it doesn't cripple us in our lives. So what can we do to build connections? Well, being vulnerable is one of the major things. Being real and removing the masks or facade that we can have, it just separates us from people, from building genuine connections. So we need to be brave and be ourselves, accept ourselves how we are and present that to others. Naturally, they've done a lot of research on this topic, and one of the studies divided people into two groups. Group 1, who had a strong sense of love and belonging, and group number 2, who struggled with feeling that they belonged, feeling that they were good enough. And what was the main difference of those two groups? They studied a lot of different variables, and the main thing was that group 1 believed that they were worthy of love and belonging. So the key was a person's sense of worthiness. Isn't that amazing? Our beliefs are the key. So can our beliefs change? Where do we get the faith and conviction that we are worthy? Of course, Christians can get it from the Bible, from God. We are all worthy of being on this planet. God created us in His image so that we could have fellowship with Him and with each other. John, he primarily described God as love. When we love, we are imitating God. When we experience evil, we hurt. But God is still good, and you are still worthy of love and belonging. So what does this group number 1 have in common? Well, this researcher divided it into two things. Number 1 is they were wholehearted people, which is an interesting wording. And she said that they have the courage, so they tell a story of who they are with their whole heart. And they have the courage to be imperfect, to be brave, to show themselves. Also, they have compassion. They want to be kind to others, but also to themselves. And also connection, that is a result of being authentic. Authenticity is willing to let go of who you think you should be in order to be who you really are. And that's vital for connection. Number 2 that she described was vulnerability. They fully embraced it. It's a struggle for many of us, but they believed that vulnerability made them beautiful. They talked as if it was a necessity, not a huge pain. And they were willing to do something first when there was no guarantee. For example, asking for help or asking someone out or initiating this or that. And vulnerability is also the birthplace of joy, creativity and belonging, etc. So it is an important thing. So vulnerability is a really good thing, and we can numb that by overly eat or drink or smoke or lie or omit truths or hide ourselves. And the bad thing is we can't selectively numb the bad feelings. So when we numb vulnerability, we also numb joy and happiness and gratitude, and it ends with us being miserable. And then we feel vulnerable in a wrong way and we numb ourselves even more. That's a vicious cycle. We make everything uncertain certain. That's another bad habit that we can have. And we blame. That was a big thing for me. I blamed everyone else. So before I took responsibility for life, there was not really any growth. Of course, blaming is a way to discharge pain and discomfort. So it's just something we do at times. Or we can perfect. We think we should be perfect. We perfect the visible thing, our looks, and that doesn't work in the long run. Or we can pretend that what we are doing doesn't affect other people. All these are bad habits. But of course there's another way, a better way, and that's to letting ourselves be seen, deeply seen, vulnerably seen, and love with our whole hearts, even though there's no guarantee for how it will end, and that can be difficult. We need to practice gratitude and joy even in moments of uncertainty. Feeling this vulnerable right now just means that I'm alive, and that's okay. And very important at last is to believe that I'm enough. This makes us kinder and gentler to ourselves as well as people around us, and opens us up for other people and connections as we start listening to the world around us. This is what we've been talking about so far, connections, relationships, which is central in our lives, can be destroyed by fear or shame, and then we have a disconnection and we feel it, and we can even hurt ourselves by bad habits and numbing ourselves or pretending. But we can also change and get back to connection by being open with other people. Actually, being authentic and showing who you really are is like cheating, but that's totally okay. It creates a direct connection with another human being, just being yourself and being vulnerable. You are fantastic. You are enough. So these human connections are essential for all of us, and the connections go both ways. People want to be seen and accepted for who they are, but we also need to see others and be interested in the other person and be real, be authentic, and be ourselves. And why not take it to the next level? A great place to start is with the connection to God, and let's also be honest and real with God. So what does the Bible say about human connections? Well, we are created to be social beings, and even in Genesis it said that it's not good for man to be alone. And Moses was told that this is too heavy for you, you can't handle it alone. So that's okay, we need each other. And sometimes we can feel alone or be very alone also, but Jesus had a fantastic angle on that. I am not alone, for my Father is with me. So we have always God next to us, and we can always pray to Him. Let me just circle back to fear, as it's one of those things that can disturb or destroy our connections. We worry about many things, but we don't need to. In Matthew 10, Jesus says, don't be afraid, you are worth more than many sparrows. Also in John 14, he says, don't let your hearts be troubled. John 16:33, he says, I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So we don't need to overcome the world, He has done that. Also, the angel said to Zechariah, don't be afraid, your prayer has been heard. And this message, don't be afraid, is mentioned more than 50 times in the Bible. Let's take it to heart and not be fearful. Let's just look at a couple of verses and see how the Master is building connections. I know that there are many verses from this one long speech. Luckily, it's the last slide. And I just want to give you a sense and a feeling of His great love, His zeal and eagerness to build strong connections. You can see He uses the word I and you and take you to be with me a lot, so that you may be where I am and you are in me and I am in you. My joy may be in you. You will not fall away. In me you may have peace. Take heart. So Jesus had human connections. He knows that we need them and we can learn from Him. In addition, He guides us to have close connections to our Creator, an eternal connection with the most powerful and loving being ever known to mankind. Let's be courageous, let's build on our connections and be brave, build on our relationships, friendships, and remember, you are worthy of love and belonging. You really, really are.